Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. I am All In Crypto, and today we are delivering some breaking news in regards to BlackRock and then being close to filing for a Bitcoin ETF. How timely of them, you may be thinking to yourself. Well, we've been doing a lot of videos really since the SEC's lawsuits came out, really looking at this and trying to understand it. And actually, it is ununderstandable in many regards. And I think that there's a lot more here than what meets the eye. If you look at what we looked at yesterday with the World Economic Forum's white paper on global crypto regulations, they seemed rather positive. Of course they would, to this industry. And then actually there needed to be adjustments to regulators, not necessarily changes to the original securities laws, etc., that are in place, but adjustments to them to cater for this new industry. Very bipolar to what Gary Gensler is essentially doing, and it just does not seem quite right. And actually, the BlackRock being close to filing a Bitcoin ETF news that is literally a few hours old, guys, came off the back end of what we looked at earlier this morning in our daily cryptocurrency market update, where we actually looked at the fact that BlackRock had upped their stake in MicroStrategy significantly. We looked at Fidelity in the Bank of America at the start of the year, which of course had bought MicroStrategy. And the only reason that they are doing this is essentially to gain Bitcoin access. What I will do also, and we've done a previous video on this, is we'll look at the time period where the S&P and gold got an ETF to understand why perhaps it may be such a big deal. Of course, I'm sure many of you are aware that right now, if you're an institution in the US, and it's likely why we've seen a lot of dumping in the altcoins over the past week or so, is because nobody wants to be caught in regulators' crosshairs. Certainly the SEC, that have a very high hit rate in regards to cases that they bring forth, usually end up in settlements because they have an unlimited source of funds, unlike many companies. So we've likely seen people really move away from altcoins. And actually, could this all be strategic and likely planned? Well, that is, of course, pure speculation. But you guys know that I'm of the mindset that there's too many conspiracies out there that have been proven factual to start just ignoring things as conspiracies nowadays. Anyway, let's get into it all, guys. Let's, of course, start with covering the big news, which is BlackRock close to filing for Bitcoin ETF application from a source. These sources seem to have a pretty damn good hit rate. BlackRock will be using Coinbase coin custody for the ETF and the crypto exchange's spot market data for pricing, the source said. We did actually see BlackRock allow institutional clients access to the crypto space through Aladdin, which is partnered with Coinbase, of course. Very interesting that one of the lawsuits was against Coinbase. I honestly think that these lawsuits are going to go in the cryptocurrency market's favor. We've also been playing quite a few clips of the hearing on digital assets that came out, I think it was either yesterday or the day before, again with McHenry, Torres, people absolutely striving to, I guess, accept and embrace this industry. Very different from what Gensler's doing. I think Gensler and what the SEC are doing is a real power grab and nothing more. They're seeing what they can get away with. So BlackRock, the world's biggest asset manager, is it 8 trillion under management now, guys? I'm not too sure. I'm sure someone will let me know in the comment section. Is close to filing for an application for Bitcoin ETF, exchange traded fund. According to the person familiar with the matter, BlackRock will be using Coinbase coin custody for the ETF and the crypto exchanges spot market data for pricing, the person said. Coinbase declined to comment, of course. At the moment, how could they? BlackRock began working with Coinbase to make crypto directly available to institutional investors midway through the year. So I've just mentioned that. I think that was is it the Aladdin arm of Coinbase, or is it BlackRock's Aladdin? I'm not so sure, but I do know that they've already facilitated exposure to the crypto space to their institutional clients, working already with Coinbase. It's why none of this makes sense, right? I mean, even if you look at the Ripple case, Ripple are literally partnered with the Bank of England and a multitude of other big institutions that are in the regulatory no. There's a lot more here than meets the eye, guys. It's very interesting to us as technical analyzers as well that we are predicting upside for this market. So far, we've been 100% right on Bitcoin, the total cryptocurrency market, in regards to its direction, the stock market, gold. We ultimately see upside across the board, downside for the dollar. And the only thing that's sort of lagging at the moment is altcoins. Bitcoin to me looks bloody healthy. And again, we will go and take a look at what happened with gold and, of course, the S&P once they had a kind of ETF filing. So this is Bitcoin. We think this is very healthy. This is a typical, to show you, and we'll see if we get a similar kind of reaction here. It's really very much make or break, I guess. It very much looks like Microsoft. Here, remember, we were predicting Microsoft upside, along with the S&P upside, along with the NASDAQ upside, so on and so forth. We've been very right on that. It's very strange. It feels FTX-ish almost in regards to the conditions of the stock market rallying and crypto not because of intrinsical issues. Similar thing happening today. I believe crypto will play catch-up. So let's finish this off, guys. It wasn't clear if the ETF will be spot or futures. BlackRock did not immediately respond to the request. Today, the Securities and Exchange Commission, which oversees ETFs in the US, has rejected every application for spot Bitcoin ETF, which doesn't make any sense, by the way, guys, because they've not said that Bitcoin is a security. So why would they be stalled? They're stalling right now, guys. Through it has approved several Bitcoin future ETFs for trading. So a future ETF doesn't affect the price of Bitcoin necessarily, because you don't actually have to hold the asset. You just have to have a future. Basically, is a derivative of the spot, and then they do have jurisdiction over it, I guess, because it's a derivative, it's a contract. A futures ETF doesn't require actual spot to back it. And this is the big difference. They know full well what happens when ETFs come into the forefront. And actually, it would mean that the likes of Bank of America, Fidelity, would never have had to buy MicroStrategy, which you can... I know that it's not Bitcoin directly, but it's for their Bitcoin exposure. We looked at this earlier, which I thought was extremely interesting. This was from the Bitcoin Culture. Unfamiliar with his channel, but this was a great Twitter page, but this was a great tweet that he did. Did you know that while the SEC is busy suing Binance and Coinbase, BlackRock and the biggest banks in the United States silently bought record amounts of Bitcoin? These banks buying Bitcoin in Q1 2023 include BlackRock, Fidelity, and Bank of America. So it's not Bitcoin necessarily, but it is indirectly through MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy was a dead company until Bitcoin came around. It never recovered from the dot-com boom. We've been quite critical of Michael Saylor, and I don't agree with everything he says, but I think he's right on some points. The tweets that, Bitcoin is life, Bitcoin is this, Bitcoin is that, I'm just like, oh man, makes me want to throw up. But I think he has some pretty good points on some things. So to his credit as well, he's had the diamond hands. When we've seen people like Elon and others puke their Bitcoin. But looking at the largest holders of MicroStrategy stock, we can see some big banks have been buying huge amounts of MSTR in Q1 2023. Yes, that's the same MSTR, the largest institutional holder of Bitcoin, owning 140K. Actually, the US government, I think, is the largest holder of Bitcoin, believe it or not. I think they've still got 200,000 Bitcoin that they've confiscated over the years. There's so many... I do this. This is what I do for a living, guys, is crypto. We're in this space 24/7. This that's happening right now with the SEC doesn't make sense, in the same way that Jerome Powell completely missing inflation doesn't make sense, or over-tightening perhaps, which he's tried to do, and causing SVB. And it just doesn't make sense, other than the real intent behind everything is not the one on the kind of face of it, if that makes sense. So looking, of course, you can see here, this indeed is the filing. You've got BlackRock, which have a significant, of course, you've got the Vanguard Group, Capital Research and Management. I'm not sure who they are, actually. I'm familiar. But BlackRock is 6.24% stake in MicroStrategy. Why would they do that? Is it because they're bearish on Bitcoin, perhaps? I'm not sure. You tell me. So they added shares You've then got obviously the Bank of America securities. You've got Fidelity Management. Morgan Stanley Investments are still owners, but they've reduced their share. And then, of course, you've got a number of others. Very interesting what's going on. And an ETF, just to take everybody back to what happens to an ETF. So let's bring up the stock market, which I think the S&P, I believe, had its first ETF approved in 1993. So going into, no. Get these draws off. By the way, these lines are when they stop hiking rates, which is a period we're in now. We've also got technical targets for the S&P to the upside. This is around the time when they approved a Bitcoin ETF. It might even be 1994. Please, someone cross-reference for me. Sometime in this time period. And the thing is with an ETF, that means this becomes a real asset for all intensive purposes. There are trillions of dollars that are going to flow into the crypto space, ladies and gentlemen. At $1 trillion, you don't realize how early we are. You're looking a gift horse in the mouth. We are very, very happy to be accumulating. And of course, we did come out publicly and say, okay, we stayed out in 2022. We're back in the market in 2023. You know, so this was obviously the spot ETF for the S&P. And then, of course, gold, I think came late. I think 2003 was Australian ETF first, and then we had the Spider. Spider, of course, was first with and anybody that's used to trading the derivatives market or the ETF markets will know this. Then we had the Spider for the S&P also. But this was the Spider. Again, look at the sort of run that gold went on. Had it really done, you know, this was in a long doldrum sort of period. And then ultimately, again, final capitulation, off we go. You've got this price. It's very strange to me that the markets we look at are all pointing to upside. And we've been spot on. This year, we've been absolutely spot on. The only thing that, of course, we've got slightly wrong is altcoins. We thought the bottom was in January. Some of them are at January's levels now. And, of course, they put a slight toe below them for some. But close is enough. And remember, I just want to say this overarchingly, guys. This is also interesting. Just in Hong Kong banking regulator is pressuring lenders to take on Bitcoin. Very interesting. Could be street from China. Remember as well that the crypto space is literally in the doldrums in terms of engagement, interest. It's going to be a very interesting rest of the year, guys. We ultimately remain long and strong. And excited about the next 12 months to come. You know, we don't think a crash occurs for the next 6, 12, 24, who knows, months ahead. But we'll see. We could be wrong on that. That's just our own personal take, looking at a number of data points, which is always important to do, to reference. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you. What do you think about the BlackRock news? Do you think it's interesting? To me, it's all very suspicious, isn't it? And very timely of BlackRock to do this. But again, going back to yesterday's video, they have a plan with all of this. You're just not quite privy to it yet. But on this channel, we'll try and figure that out. If you've enjoyed the content, like, it's always appreciated. So as a comment, if you want to join my group and get on board with what I'm doing, where I'm doing it, what I'm buying, etc., please do consider joining the All in Crypto Patreon. Link in the description. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. See you in the next.